Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. It's that time of the week for the Cannabis Events Talk Show, hosted by eventhi, and I am your host, Adelia Carrillo. Now, for those that are new to the show, the Cannabis Events Talk Show covers all about cannabis events, experiences, and tourism. We keep you updated on the hottest topics, from current news, trends, to interviews with our special guests each week, to marketing tips, and so much more. Now, the lineup of the show is we have our special guest that's going to be joining us. I will do a overview interview with her. She'll share some insights into some things that are going on. And then we will discuss one article of the week, again, around cannabis tourism, travel, or events. And then I'll end the show with some quick updates and announcements. So for those that are tuning in, we are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Feel free to join the conversation. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll try to get through them throughout the conversation. So now that we went over the kind of house rules and the overview, let's get to the good part. Now, I am so excited to introduce you all to this week's guest, Dale Sky Jones. Dale has been focused on enhancing the debate for cannabis policy reform since 2007. I was going to say 17. It's even bigger. 2007, based in Oakland, California. She took over as president and CEO of Oaksterdam University in 2012 after a crippling federal raid to ensure Oaksterdam University's legacy of cannabis education. Now, Oaksterdam is proud of more than 80,000 alumni from more than 100 countries, becoming the most engaged professional advocates and business leaders globally. They have quality training for the cannabis industry, and this is Dale's passion and the Oaksterdam mission. She believes education is the foundation for establishing the political and social climate to encourage policy reform. Also, Dale created the blueprint for cannabis reform as a spokeswoman and legislative liaison for the first statewide legislation effort, the Prop 19 campaign in California, which actually ignited international debate in 2010. Now, over the past 7 years, she served as chairwoman of the board for the Diverse Coalition for Cannabis Policy Reform, whose efforts led to legalization in California. She's also the founding board member of the Cannabis Media Council and the National Cannabis Industry Association. She also serves on the Cannabis Advisory Board for the Community College of Denver and the Minorities for Medical Marijuana Advisory Board. So with that being said, welcome, Dale, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Adelia. Where does she find the time to do all these things?
Right? You are making the moves. You are honestly inspiring us and obviously staying very busy.
Yes, indeed. With 3 young kids, I'll add. I'm a mom, wow. So you just add that to the title. Yes, that was an amazing introduction, and it's been quite a ride.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for joining us today. And, I would just want to share with you and to everyone tuning in, you have been somebody that I've looked up to. And so it is really an honor having you join me today. But to kick things off, for those who may be unfamiliar with Oaksterdam, what is Oaksterdam University?
Well, Oaksterdam started as really a ragtag group of people trying to provide safe access to medical cannabis patients. And when the federal government first stopped the first founders of Oaksterdam back in the 90s, that wound up becoming a Supreme Court case. They were no longer allowed to supply or dispense the medicine, but they were able to educate on it. And that was really the moment where we went from doers to teachers, but we continued to be doers for a while, which also brought the raid. The man that moved out from Texas was the original grower. He started the school, and it was first just to try to get people more involved with the local policy. You want to learn how to grow? All right, well, I want you to show up to city council next week, so we'll trade. And then as soon as they showed up to city council, which was fantastic, we quickly realized, oh, we need to also teach you what to say and how to advocate for yourself, because most of us did not go to civics. Or if we didn't skip or sleep through it, the school doesn't even offer it anymore. So just understanding your power as a citizen, realizing the power of jury immunity, the power of your vote, And so it was really a trade. If you want us to teach you how to grow and be in cannabis, then you need to get political. And we held the first set of classes in a small little room, and people kept calling. They're like, well, we did it. They're like, you need to do it again. And so over the last 15 years now, it went from, a few classes over a weekend to teach you your rights and responsibilities of how to be a patient and how to grow your own medicine, how to transport it safely, and most importantly, how to have successful law enforcement encounters, meaning you go home that night instead of to jail with a nice not so nice police officer. How to articulate your rights when in those encounters and how to do so safely. And then it was, well, teach us how to be in business. And now we teach governments how to tax, control, and regulate. And so a lot of the folks that we teach in a day, we're under contract with the great city of Los Angeles, Palm Springs, and of course, Oakland. Most recently, we're also doing work with Long Beach, previously San Francisco, and the great state of Connecticut has selected us to create the first of its kind accelerator for social equity. So we just keep taking it to the next level. And the good news is we're training your regulators. So it's a good place to come learn how to be compliant too.
Yeah. Well, and you're kind of going a little bit backwards, but your official role transitioned for Oaksterdam as a CEO and president, and it began at a pretty intense time. What was that experience like? Like, how did it happen that it was just this raid came? Can you share some insight?
The affidavit is still sealed, and it's so fascinating now. I don't have to explain much because of what's happening in the news. People are like, oh, that really? Okay, I understand what you're talking about now. No charges were ever filed as a result of the federal raid on Oaksterdam in 2012. We believe that it happened for a couple of reasons, mostly because we got political. The person who had a dispensary in Oakland was on the news utilizing money from cannabis sales to go practice politics. And they said, oh, hell no. No, 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 no. So the raid, I think, was predicated that they thought that it was a tax issue. It was actually an IRS predicated raid. The good news is that also meant that all of our files were sealed. So they weren't able to share anything that they were doing with, say, the DEA because it was an IRS raid. We don't know ultimately. Someday there'll be a FOIA, I assume. But the long and short of it is they thought it was about taxes. And we were the folks teaching people how to pay their taxes, regardless of how they made their money.
Yeah.
So I think, honestly, if you look back at the zeitgeist around 2010 through 2012, Walter White was burying barrels of money in his backyard. And they thought that Richard Lee was Walter White. And he was just Richard Lee. He really put his money where his mouth was. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing a bit about that. Now,
What if I can just add one other thing, though, because this, I think this, for folks that say, pot is not my thing, and
yeah.
legalizing weed, why do I care? And it's really about the priorities of our cities, our counties, our state, and our federal government, of where are they putting their priorities? Are they putting their priorities into the drug war of trying to crack down on small dealers, usually Black and brown people, always poor people, always in those neighborhoods? And we had city leaders begging for help with gun control in the city of Oakland when the Fed came in and did not tell the local cops. They were quiet about it because they were afraid that the cops were our friends, apparently. But they also failed to allow the city to prepare for one of the most dramatic and traumatic events that had happened to our city in a while. They shut down Broadway. There were over 100 agents that swarmed at least 5 different locations. I actually think there were 7 locations that were hit altogether because they also hit a couple of random friends' houses thinking that they were involved. What happened that day was the worst shooting in Oakland's history. It was a school shooting. And our cops were unable to respond to a school shooting a couple miles away at the other OU, Oikos University. It was a nursing college, because those cops were stuck protecting the DEA and the IRS and the Treasury agents and the federal marshals from our citizens, because they were there to raid us over a plant. Meanwhile, shooting spree down the street and our cops couldn't respond. And that's why you should care, is where are our priorities going in our community? And what are we really spending our time and energy on? And that moment, if I didn't already believe in what I did,
Yeah.
was such a juxtaposition of having my city council member at large standing next to me, begging for help with gun violence as the report goes out across the reporters and the officers that there's a school shooting happening as we speak. It really underlines why we're doing this, because even if you don't care about weed, even if you're not trying to legalize cannabis, we're trying to both legalize people, but also put our resources where they most belong in our community.
And I believe I think I was watching a video, or maybe it was something I saw you speaking about. The news didn't really speak about the shooting, right? They were just so focused on Oaksterdam and what happened. So they were just trying to even undo their wrongs by not putting light at what they were supposed to be focused on and wow. Oh my gosh. Well, and that'll lead to some, we have an event that will help raise awareness on this, which we'll do as well. But
this was captured in the movie.
This was captured. Oh, you're going to have some.
Yeah, it's in the film.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we'll dive into that more shortly, and really, go into the movie and what people are going to be able to expect and see too. Now, outside of your role as a CEO and president and advisory board and committee member, you also spent your time around civil rights issues and educating legislative and government entities. What is your best piece of advice for those looking to get more involved and using their voice or platform to help?
That is a great question, Adelia. I think that first and foremost, when I was the spokeswoman for the first voter initiative, I was very much into facts and figures. I was trying to prove that the sky would not fall and that cats would not sleep with dogs if we legalized cannabis for adult use. And I've realized, after staring and studying in great depth change management, how do you change how an entire society feels about something, especially in such a short amount of time? And it's not facts, it's not figures. The news is fake and the books are cooked. No one cares anymore, even more so recently. And so there's one thing we have left. And it turns out it was the one thing that always mattered the most, and that's storytelling. Being able to explain quickly who you are and why you care, and how you came to your decision. What happened to you in your life that made you realize? In the example of Richard Lee, who started Oaksterdam, he was the one forcibly retired that day of the federal raid when I stepped up. For him, it was his Christian conservative mom and dad. We are talking right-wing conservative Christians from Texas, and they definitely were not okay with marijuana. But they saw their son, who had been crippled in an accident. He was, he used to fly small airplanes. Like he actually was a rigger for concerts. He was a roadie, and he fell hurt his back. He fell on his screwdriver, and it shattered his vertebrae. And so he's in extraordinary pain every single day. He's in a wheelchair. She's watching her son every single day, trying all of these different things to relieve himself, to just be able to sleep at night. And he found this one thing. And she's like, well, I'm against that one thing. He says, well, this is the only thing that helps me. And she came around to the point of not just starting Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition, RAMP, but this woman came to realize that pro-life is also pro-cannabis. And if you call yourself pro-life, you had best be pro-cannabis. And she's changed the conversation in Christian conservative right-wing circles about what pro-life means. We can have a whole nother level of conversation about women's rights and our right to choose over our body, but be able to switch around the conversation around cannabis, of how we can improve our lives and make our lives better. It's a conversation we're having in mosques, we're having it in churches, we're having it in synagogues, that while a lot of faith leaders or medical professionals, they don't want you to seek out mind altering drugs. They're saying, do without all of that. But this is a harm reduction technique as well. And in cases of medicinal use, it's helping you clear your mind. So it's not mind altering so much as reaffirming and bringing homeostasis. And when used in that light, it does become acceptable to our Black elders in Black churches who have been told for 40 years that this drug problem is not only your problem, it's your fault. Well, that's bullshit. Am I allowed to curse on this?
Yeah, they were. I don't know. We finished the flag
let me tell you how I really feel. Yes.
Yeah. No, that is. It really goes back to the storytelling. I was just sharing last night about my journey and how I got reconnected to the plant, but how it impacted my parents. My stepdad, he is a retired sheriff. He was a cop, and so I was scared. I was scared as heck, wanting to announce that I was going into this. And when he found, they found out, they did find out, found out on LinkedIn. Apparently I didn't know I was connected with them, and they found out when I changed my job status. But the same thing. They saw how it impacted me medically, medicinally, like how it improved my mental health and my body pain, and that they couldn't go away from that. It was the same thing. People do resonate, and they see how it impacts people that they love or themselves, how it impacts them. So storytelling is key.
And then the only other thing I would do is make sure that you are it takes 2 minutes, but you can look up your representatives, your congressional representative, and you have 2 senators. So there's 3 phone calls that you want to make. And phone calls are super quick, super simple. Your heart might thud in your chest, and then it's over before you know it. And all you're doing is calling the office and logging what you want to see happen. And you want to always make sure that you're contacting your elected representative, because unless you're donating lots of zeros, they don't care unless you have a vote. And if you have a vote, they care. It's their job to care. And so whether you're calling to praise them for a decision they just made, you see people like Representative Barbara Lee. You're like, well, she already agrees with me. Barbara Lee speaks for me. Well, then I need to call her and say thank you sometimes, because she's fighting for me out there. And I need her to hear not just from the people complaining about what she just did, but from the people that support what she just did. But even more importantly, making sure if there is something on the federal docket, that if you're not calling in advance of the vote, that you're calling the Washington office, not your local one, because that's the staff that is paying attention in that moment.
Well, these are all good insights, especially for our viewers, that they can do this from anywhere, any state that they're in. So you can all participate in this simple ask. And yeah, I get nervous with those phone calls. So but I do need to do it myself. So
I get nervous. Like, let me be clear. My heart thuds in my chest, and so I just want to be like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. The person on the other side is just a staffer, just like you, wanting to know how you feel about something. And then it's over, because they also have to get off the phone and get to something else. So they're not going to grill you. They're not going to judge you. They're going to say thank you. They're going to ask you your zip code to make sure that you are one of the constituents. And then it's over. So, valor is not what you do. It's not the fear you feel. It's what you do anyway. You can be afraid. Do it anyway. Let me be the voice whispering, you can do it, and it's worth it.
Yes, exactly. Well, we're going to go into some of the conversations around these events, and then we'll go into the quick article of the week. But I do want to speak more about the upcoming event, but you also just had 2 virtual events yesterday. Can you just chat a little bit about how they went? We had the Business to Business Mixer and Workforce Wednesdays.
Amazing. I have really enjoyed the work we're doing in the city of Los Angeles, where we perform different services. And what we're doing now monthly is Workforce Wednesday. So the second Wednesday of every month, We have the business to business mixer where we can bring in a couple of companies to spotlight. You can share with us your ethos, and also if you happen to have goods or services, let's say you're a white label company, or you have a shared kitchen and you can bring in additional licensees, or you're an insurance agent and you serve the cannabis industry. So we can spotlight your company. And then at the end, we do a bit of a round robin. So other folks that have attended can also share who they are and what they do. They might become future spotlights. And there's also an ability to visit a booth. Those companies that are trying to share their goods and services, you can post videos or even do one-to-one interviews. And so it's kind of a dual layered event to try to bring together different types of businesses. All businesses in the LA area are welcome, even ancillary. You don't have to have a cannabis license and you don't have to be equity. It's to build the ecosystem of business to business interactions. And then right after that, we rolled into the Workforce Wednesday portion. We had a couple of hiring companies that we spotlighted, as well as some HR professionals. So we just had some great conversations and interactions. And I do believe that we have a couple of job offers about to go out from some of the applications that were put in yesterday. So yes, I would say that's great.
Huge. Yeah, it's making an impact, and this is the second Wednesday of every monthly,
Yes,
correct?
yes. And so if you're interested in the LA area, you can just email laequity@oaksterdamuniversity.com.
Perfect. There we go. And now we want to chat a little bit about the big event. You have the Oaksterdam is getting ready for Oakland's event of the decade.
Yes.
Now, this is going to be a very impactful event. This is where we were kind of mentioning earlier about the movie that they will be watching. Yeah, what can people expect?
Yeah, that was a little teaser early on, wasn't it? Yeah, well, we called it the event of the decade because this film crew caught the arc of history quite accidentally. They started following us back, that campaign we just mentioned in 2010. They started following the first statewide campaign to legalize cannabis in, I don't know, over 30 years. And they thought that that was the movie. And as they're in editing, and we lost, just not a spoiler. Folks already know that it was in the news. We lost the campaign, but we won decriminalization in California. We won a legislative measure that dropped arrests. 9 out of 10 people stopped going to jail in California for cannabis possession after we forced that change with the legislature and the governor. But what a crappy way to end a movie, right? Like, well, they lost. Now what? So they're like, well, can you do something else special? And then the raid happened. Like, well, a worse way to end a movie is that, like, okay, you just got your legs cut out from under you and smacked down, and they just took everything but the office furniture. Good luck with that. What you gonna do now? So they just kept waiting and kept coming back and filming little things that would happen. The Blue Ribbon Commission happened with the governor. All of these things that started to change what was going on around the world, really. They just kept coming back every once in a while and filming. And so over a decade, they caught not just Oaksterdam. It's not just the story of us. It's the story of all of us, of the folks that were involved in changing these laws, the cops and the moms that showed up because they recognize that the drug war has failed. And if you don't believe that this is a social justice, civil rights issue, then you don't understand the issue. And we also had the NAACP director, Miss Alice Huffman, is part of this. The unions is part of this. Latino voters leagues, the Black officers leagues, folks you would never imagine coming together to legalize cannabis. And that's what made it so special. And this event is to bring all of us back together to celebrate not just 15 years of the school, but that we bent the arc of history towards justice, but we're not there yet. We're so close. And this last step of not if, I think we're past the if now. Woohoo! Revolutions don't go backwards, right? But the and when doesn't matter as much as the who and the how at this point. Who is allowed to participate and how are they allowed to enter this industry? Are you with all the opportunity to start your own business? Because small business is the backbone of America. No reason that the industry should be any different. Or are you going to forever be somebody else's employee or an outlaw? Pick one. And that's really
Yeah.
what's going on now is we're creating monopolies in America state by state. And once that monopoly is created, it is protected no matter what. And
Mhm.
so figuring out the rest of the blueprint, I think is also what comes out of this movie is the pathway to take the criminality out of cannabis once and for all, to deschedule federally once and for all. You know, things like safe banking are not just an issue for big MSOs. It's an issue for, you know, someone in Compton just who's already underbanked because of their neighborhood, never mind trying to get a bank account for cannabis. So it's it's dramatic. It will make you laugh, it will make you cry, it will make you inspired. And it'll also just it's something that you can show your Aunt Betty in Nebraska. It's a movie about pot that isn't all about blowing smoke in your face.
And this event is coming up.
Yes.
Who will be in attendance for this event?
Woo, well, lots of people have promised, and we have some really exciting folks. You know, first and foremost, our alumni, because they are the secret, not such a secret, but they are the secret to our success. And it's all the folks that came and learned how to change the world that went back to their own neck of the woods. So with the 80,000 that we've graduated out of Oaksterdam, many of them are, you know, thought leaders in their neck of the woods. And so we're going to have a lot of major companies, a lot of thought leaders that founded major companies over the last 15 years in this building. We also have had full support from Tommy Chong. He's really excited about all of this. He's going to be receiving an award. Redman will be there, and he will be receiving an award. I heard a rumor that Mike Tyson might be coming, and several other luminaries were also excited to support some of the politicians, which is not what we usually do. But it does take a lot of courage to do this. And so we also have Governor Newsom, who just might be our next president, who has accepted an award. And we have an amazing dedication from him. We are also trying to honor Rob Bonta. And the mayor of Oakland, Libby Schaff, is going to be welcoming the crowd with me. We're going to be honoring a couple of local politicians as well. Nate Miley, a supervisor who made a lot of this possible over 20 years ago. So it's just a good chance. It's, you know, good times with old friends. And it often feels like old times with new friends when you get this group of people together.
That's so amazing. And this is going to be on Saturday, September 24th. Again, this is in Oakland, California at the Fox Theater.
Yes, the historic Fox Theater. It is so beautiful there. I'm very excited. Fun fact, Oaksterdam helped get the Fox open once upon a time when downtown Oakland was just sad. One of the things that we really believed in was filling some of these empty buildings with businesses. And this is part of why Richard started so many businesses in downtown Oakland, was to fill those empty spots. And suddenly a coffee shop would move in and someone coming to buy cannabis would stop for coffee. Oh, is that a t-shirt place? Oh, look at that over there. Maybe I'll stop here before I leave town again. And so as people were coming into Oakland to come to Oaksterdam, they were staying in our hotels for days on end and shopping and eating and dining. And over that course, downtown Oakland, well, it's now called Uptown Oakland. We didn't move, but the entire area revitalized, and the Fox Theater is an anchor to that. So we talked a bunch of people into paying for it, and it is it's kind of tremendous to know that we're about to take the stage. It feels like we're coming full circle after all this time. It's going to be a good time. I hope that you all can join us.
Yes, it's definitely going to be a good time. Now, we have the link down below where you can get your tickets, but there's also other opportunities to get more involved, correct? There's a sponsorship placement as well, sponsorship opportunities?
Yes, we're trying to make this attainable and accessible for as many folks as possible. And so if you have a brand and you want to get in front of some of the folks that I just mentioned, then we do have VIP gift bags. So you can be included in the VIP gift bag. There's absolutely sponsorship opportunities. We will put you up on the big screen, whether it's your brand and your logo, or if you have a commercial, a sizzle reel about your company. That could also play on the big screen at the Fox. But we also want to make sure that we're inclusive of our legacy and equity brands. And so there's different ways. We also have tickets that are comps. If it's a situation where you really want to come and you just can't afford it, which I've been there, and just, oh, $10, $35. Yeah, that's lunch money for the week. That's feeding my kids. We have
Yeah.
comps for you too. So if you can pay, if you can support, we ask that you do, and you know who you are if you can. And if not, come anyway. We have a space for you. There's a place for you.
Again, bringing the bigger picture, bringing them together, giving them that opportunity to see what has happened as well, and to help them be involved with the future of the
Yes.
way things are going to move forward,
Yep.
empower them. Now, we're going to transition into the news article component. I want to be mindful of our time for you. I know we got a busy day today over there. So
Yes, we're actually hosting a federal German delegation here in Oakland this afternoon. So just to be able to converse with other countries about good policy is always an exciting opportunity for sure.
Wow. That is amazing. I can't, I am not because going in the cannabis industry, I started becoming more political and at least just trying to teach myself what this stuff means. But it's hard and it gets intimidating. The language is different. I'm just being real. Like, it is the hardest thing. So I'm always like, okay, I got to keep reading. I got to keep learning, and it's changing. So to be in those rooms, that has to be really amazing to hear that and be a part of it.
And I'll just go back to keep showing up and keep
Yeah.
doing it. And, you get a little bit of a rush when it's done, and then just take that feeling of that, the butterflies are fuel, and then enjoy that rush. And you can start so simple. Just show up for jury duty. I know. Show up for jury duty and show up to vote. Those two things are so huge.
Yeah, exactly. And they make a difference.
Yeah.
Now, all right. So this week's news article is New Mexico State Fair adds a Discovering Cannabis exhibit to the events list. So the New Mexico State Fair has teamed up with the Verdes Foundation, a New Mexico-based cannabis dispensary, to add a Discovering Cannabis educational exhibit to its events this upcoming year. The event will be designed to educate 21-year-olds and older on the state's newest agricultural industry and provide a safe space for the cannabis curious to ask questions, get information, and learn more. Now, the article goes into sharing more about the exhibit and what people can expect. So for those that are interested in learning more, keep updated on the New Mexico State Fair. But what I wanted to touch base on more is you actually went to the California State Fair and they started doing a cannabis component. How was that experience?
It was thrilling to know that a state institution with, it's such history. We're talking 4-H, folks. The kids that like raise bunnies and chickens or grow gourds. That this cannabis is a crop, and in fact, hemp is it has the largest carbon sink of any crop. So it's also a great crop. Never mind that it could also produce energy after the whole carbon sink thing. There's so much opportunity with especially rural communities. And that's really what we're talking about with state fair. It's the county fair, right? It's the one that you have to kind of drive out of the city to go to. And oftentimes it's the cities that have been first to adopt cannabis and especially retail. So it's an amazing opportunity to just desensitize the public, especially those that are accustomed to seeing the crops and the bunnies and the competition, to realize that cannabis is just a plant. And it also has, just like wine, attributes that you can judge, that it has a competitive spirit to it. And so just to bring it down to normal is probably the most exciting part of this. Is we were able, stay with me here, to make it boring. Like, in the sense that, like, it's there and then nothing happens. And that's the awesomeness of it. Is it was sitting right next to the wine building and the candy building. And it was just another building with displays, just like every other one. I will say that I did bring my children, my two older boys, 11 and 8. They do know what I do. And I had to leave them outside.
Oh.
And we were a little surprised by that, because we were like, well, is there consumption inside? No. Is there actual cannabis inside? Well, it's behind a plate, bulletproof glass. Okay. So what is exactly you're afraid of if I
Yeah.
bring my children in, and the under 21 thing is the one I'd like to challenge next, because
Yeah.
I can see just letting kids run around, that's no good. But if you're
Yeah.
accompanied by your parents and you're having a conversation, I asked, and they were allowed in the wine tent. So
What?
we're
That's
almost there, but not quite. And
yeah.
that's so you can go talk about how grapes are grown and how grapes are turned into alcohol, because it's all, like I said, it's not about use at the fair. It's about the competition and about education. So I think just getting in and having it be just like any other display is the big win. And
Yeah.
and next, if we can treat it just like any other commodity and allow people to learn about it regardless of their age, as long as they're accompanied by a parent.
Yeah.
But also just acknowledge that, again, we've come a really long ways, but we're not there yet. And the
Yeah.
folks that tend to think that, you know, we're through it, tend to look more like me, tend to be whiter, tend to be wealthier. And the poorer or darker skinned you are, you'll be the first to say, oh no, prohibition is not over, and I'm doing the same business you are, but I'm the one getting pulled over driving while black. And that's what we have to still recognize, is it's also just bringing that equality into who can participate, and that includes rural, it includes farmers. That hemp, cannabis is just as much for that almond farmer in the valley as it is for somebody hiding up in the Green Triangle. That it's just a plant. So it's really exciting. That was a lot, but it was really exciting just to see it happen.
That's good. Well, and even just again your feedback on the 21 and plus. I envision because a couple years ago they were trying to have cannabis events or at least some sort of cannabis component at the San Diego Del Mar Fair. And again, I just remember sitting in those rooms and just hearing the opposing side. And again, I think it's for the opposing side. They say at least we'll do this, but that 21 and up. So like you said, it's not there yet, but it's a starting point.
Yeah.
And
Friendly reminder, the harder you try to keep your kids away from it, the more they work to get to it. And some of this is like just desensitizing. Like, not only is it boring, but mommy likes it, and watch how quick they rebel.
exactly. That is true. We all just need to remember how we were when we were kids. Like, what did we
All
used
the
to do?
children, all the
Yes.
children, all the pot reformers I know are not cannabis consumers. In fact, they're teetotalers. They don't do any drugs, not even alcohol. It's really remarkable. And sharing your story can be really scary. I kept waiting to be attacked for who I am and what I do, because I come from corporate America. I didn't tell anybody what I did for the first 2 years. It was really the campaign that I came out, and for you coming out, your parents love you, and so you can have that conversation and starting there. But there's really only one time that I've ever been quote unquote attacked about cannabis. And it was the time that I had my toddler in a press conference at a hotel about cannabis. And there was no cannabis. I would say the most dangerous thing in the room were the reporters. But it really drove home uh, that this is about the children. This is about changing the society that they grow up in and what we prioritize in their future. Is this a, school to success pipeline, or is this a school to prison pipeline? And just keeping that in mind, that we're all just a bunch of people trying to make it in a day. And a lot of the opposition is fear based. And once they get to know you, they realize you're not that scary, gangbanger in the corner. And cannabis is going to continue to be bought and sold. The question is, by whom? Is this going to be taxed by the government to reinvest in schools and communities, or is it going to go towards more semi-automatic weapons and the trafficking of humans? And so, as communities, whether it's rural or city, it's again, follow the money, right? Where
Yeah.
does the money go, and where are our priorities? And hopefully, uh, we can make it fun. Because it's also about entertainment, and information can be not just educational, but fun. And hopefully, y'all will show up to this event on September 24th. There will be additional opportunities, hopefully, down the line, but this is the one. It is the only one of its kind, thus, the event of the decade. And I do hope to see you there.
Yes. Yes. And with that being said, again, thank you, Dale, for joining us. Any final words? I mean, the biggest thing is the Oakland's event of the decade, September 24th. Tickets are still available. Sponsorship opportunities are available. And again, as Dale said, if you are unable to pay for that ticket right now, that is completely fine. They have opportunities for you as well. But any
Just
other
reach.
final announcements? Yeah.
Well, other than reaching out for the comp tickets, I would say buy your tickets because in a hot minute, they could sell out.
Yes.
So don't wait, my stoner friends.
Yeah, this is not one of those events to wait last minute.
No,
Get
no,
the
I'd hate to
tickets.
turn you away at the door. So get your tickets now. And
Yes,
thank
yes.
you. I'm so stoked at our relationship with Event High. You have been so awesome in supporting and promoting, and we just look forward to working with you more in the future. It's awesome.
Yes,
Thank you.
we are excited as well. We're proud to begin this relationship as well, and we're trying. We're going to see if we can come up to Oakland, but if not, we have a lot of friends that are watching that we know. So you guys should all be there, representing, attending, and joining this amazing event. Well, again, thank you, Dale, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you, Adelia. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Take care.
All right, everyone. Now we are just few final announcements and we'll be done with the show. So next week guest is George Gage of Gage Media and MJ Unpacked. And this week's event of the week is Thought Leaders Virtual Event, the International Cannabis Markets, hosted by the Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. This event is a free seminar to explore opportunities in the global cannabis market with Bob Hoban, one of the most influential people in the global cannabis industry. Learn more from accomplished attorney, entrepreneur, and executive who has earned a reputation as a cannabis industry deal maker. So if you're interested in learning more about that event, go to eventhi.io and look for the Thought Leaders virtual event. And then just one final announcement. Again, the Oakland's event of the decade is also on Event High. Tickets are available and you have until about a week. September 24th is the event date. So hope to see you guys all there. And that's the end of the show for today. So stay safe, stay healthy, and stay high. Bye.